My name's Nora. I'm 21. And on Easter Sunday, my parents said the family table was full, while they saved the window seat for a neighbor who moved in 3 months ago. The house smelled like cinnamon bunnies and floor polish. Mom lined porcelain birds down the runner. 8 chairs. 8 place cards. Not one with my name. What about me? I asked. She didn't look up. Sweetie, you'll be happier in the breakfast. Nook, we need the dining room for real guests. Real guests. I've lived here my whole life. Mr. Ellison still calls Dad Jeffries. Dad arrived with a sweating glass. We're honoring a widower. It's one meal. Don't be difficult. I carried my deviled eggs. Mom's recipe. My piping to the kitchen like staff. In the dining room. Silverware chimed. Mom's voice rose a register. Please. Mr. Ellison. Take the seat by the window. My seat. The one where I did homework. Announced college. Cried over a breakup. Where the crabapple tree framed every season. For as long as I remember. Mom has curated appearances like meringue, glossy, stiff, perfect. And there's her golden child. My brother Caleb. When he crashed my Civic, I paid $1. Lambe. When Dad's crown cracked, I put $4. $500 on my card. When Caleb pitched an espresso cart, I co-signed $9. Babe. When the roof needed a deposit, I loaned $2. Tsibai Wusher. When Mom wired him a $600 bridge, I got a winky emoji. Family helps. Family. Dad always said. It turns out, logistics can hide love that never shows up. Caleb slipped into the kitchen. I saw the table. Then my face. That's messed up. You're their daughter. Don't, I said. It'll make it worse. Through the archway, Mom performed. Our Nora is very independent. She told the room. Dad added, maybe too independent. Traditions aren't her thing. Last Easter, I cooked 6 hours, set the table, and stayed to scrub. But sure, traditions aren't my thing. I should have known. The year Mom trimmed costs by leaving me off the Christmas card while wiring Caleb $600, the fundraiser that raised $10K while my roof loan became a pine-scented candle, the family appreciation brunch where I wore an apron and stayed out of photos. Today, I still hoped. I'd driven 2 hours with perfect eggs and a softer heart. The crabapple buds looked like small valentines. I wanted Mom to meet my eyes and say, sit. I wanted Dad to put down the glass and say, I'm sorry. Instead, I took out my phone and typed in the family group chat. Starting next month, Sunday dinners are at my place. If you've ever felt like you had to earn a chair, you have a permanent seat at mine. I hesitated, then pressed. Send. Dots bloomed. Caleb, I'm in. Bringing cups and ice. Tessa, my sister, finally. What can I bring Rhea cousin lasagna? The real one. Emma, do I get an adult chair? I'm 19. Uncle Mike will bring the good wine. Replies, stacked 15 yeses in 5 minutes. Every ping felt like a chair unfolding somewhere else. We finished our plates in the kitchen. When dessert time came, we grabbed our coats. You're leaving already, Mom intercepted us. We haven't had pie. We have plans, Caleb said. What plans? It's Easter. We're starting a new tradition, I said. One where everyone gets a seat. On Tuesday, Mom called. What did I do wrong? You counted 8 chairs, I said, and none for your daughter. She sighed, the sigh I've known since I was 12 and wanted short hair. You've always made things harder than they need to be. I'm done being okay, I said. You're invited Sunday. So is Dad. We have plans. For the rest of our lives. Silence. Then we love you. Nora. I want you to act like it, I said, and hung up. We didn't stay for pie. The sun felt loud on the steps. Caleb drummed the dash. Text me your address. 6 o'clock. Bring ice and cups. Tuesday night, my phone filled with photos, the table. Mr. Ellison in my window chair. Mom's caption, Easter blessings with our growing family. The mustard jar glowed in the center. The detail punched a bruise I hadn't named. Mom called again. You're tearing this family apart. I'm setting another table. I said, sit at either. You'll regret this. Maybe, but I'll regret staying small more. I cleaned my apartment like I expected inspection. My thrift table slid to a wall. I rubbed lemon oil into the oak scars until the wood shone back. On the wall, I taped Sunday lasagna Denise. Wine Mike. Salad Rhea. Ice divided by cups. Caleb. Bread Emma. Baby nest Lila. By Thursday, Caleb texted Dad says Ellison's important. Finance committee. He's generous. Then they're talking to a lawyer. Estate planning. Grandma's things. The house. The table. I said. He nodded. Grandma Jo had left me the oak table for memory and meals. The will got filed. The table never moved. Where's the will? Hall closet. Gray file box. Behind the board games. You didn't hear that from me. Sunday arrived. The room grew big with people. We raised cheap glasses to new traditions and chairs with names. In the hallway. My phone buzzed. Mom, you didn't invite us. I did. On Tuesday. We assumed you were bluffing. I'm not. You're tearing this family apart. I'm not. I looked at my table. I'm building a second one. She hung up. Dessert came early. So did a knock. Mom. Dad. And behind them, Mr. Ellison. House rules. I said, respect the seat. Speak to, not about. Pass before you preach. If you break something, you fix it. They stepped in. We ate pie, no one needed. Ellison raised his hand. I co-chair finance. We plan to sell your table. I sent Nora the minutes because it was wrong. I'm sorry. I want to fix it. Caleb cleared his throat. I took help. I asked Nora to carry. I'll pay her back $200 a month until I hit $4. Ling ling ling. In writing. Okay. I said. We'll both sign. Mom stared at the blue ledger copy Grandma kept, where Mom had once written, Nora will understand. She pressed her lips together. The room learned a new quiet. After they left, Caleb dried dishes. There's one more thing, he said. When I was 19, Mom opened a store card in your name for appliances. They didn't pay it. Your APR took the hit. I'm sorry. Okay, I said. We pull our reports. We dispute. We document. We build receipts. Next morning, I found the will. As I closed the closet, the front door opened. Mom, Dad, and Ellison. We were going to show him the table. Mom said, It's mine. I said, I'll be here Friday with movers. They said it's heavy. You don't have space. You're making a scene. I've carried bigger things. I said, Friday. 9. Friday. 9, sharp. The movers rolled up. Mom blocked the door. You can't. I am. I said. Caleb cleared chairs. He'd chosen a lane. When the crew tilted the top, a taped packet slid loose and skittered, Grandma's handwriting for Nora. When the table moves again, I slipped it into my tote. At my apartment. The oak took the middle, like it had always been walking toward this room. The foreman said, 380. I overtipped like sealing a treaty. The packet held a letter, a brass key on a string, and a photo of 8-year-old me under the table. Jam on my chin, my Nora. Wood remembers. The men at church forget on purpose. If anyone turns love into applause, don't sell the wood. Open the blue ledger in the laundry room cabinet. This key opens box 412 at Harbor Mutual. Ask for Mr. Patel. Chairs are for belonging, not bargaining. Grandma Joe. At Harbor Mutual. Mr. Patel slid box, 412, onto a table like a librarian. Inside Nora's ledger, Grandma's tidy record of every loan I made, $1. Lambe ja 4美元, Wu bai ja 9美元, Babe ja 2美元, 750加600美元等于18美元, 850, plus a note, and 100 casseroles, a smaller envelope to 000 a starter's pistol, buy chairs that don't wobble. Ellison texted me a photo of minutes, consign antique dining table Jeffrey and Marjorie's estimate, 35K use for naming rights. Sell my seat for a plaque. That night, I took photos of Mom's blue binder laundry room donations. Pledges. And in pink, kids' transfers with notes. Nora will understand. I didn't take the binder. I took proof. On Sunday, the doorbell. Mom. Dad. Ellison. We came for dessert. Mom said, then follow the rules. I said, and we made room. Ellison apologized in front of them. Caleb promised repayments. I laid Grandma's ledger on the table. We didn't fight about the past. We acknowledged it and planned who brings what next week. Later, Caleb told me about the card in my name. We agreed we'll dispute without burning. And build receipts with teeth. Coffee. Laptops. The blue ledger between us like a third person. Credit reports. There it was. A store card opened 8 years ago in my name. Charged off. I filed a police report. Froze my credit. And signed Clara's identity theft affidavit. She drafted letters to the store's legal team and the collector and a cease reporting notice for bureaus. Clara on the family side. You're solid on the will. Keep receipts for movers, divided by refinisher. For repayments? Choose informal with paper real dates. Small amounts. Momentum. I opened the table leaves to dust and found a narrow compartment along the edge. Inside, an old recorder. A cassette labeled Table Stories for Nora. New batteries. Play. Static. Then Grandma's voice. Testing. If you hear me? I beat the men at church who said I can't work a machine. I'll tell you 3 stories so you know what to do when love and pride start bartering. First Thanksgiving, after Grandpa died, they brought a ham and a plaque. Eat the ham. Put the plaque away. Deacons wanted a fog machine. She kept the piano. Sold pies in silence. Handed receipts. People respect paper more than tears. A winter, she almost sold the table for $400. Some things you sell. Some things you keep because they keep you. If your parents swap wood for goodwill, she said, be kind without being quiet. And when repair feels like revenge, choose repair. But make sure it bites. The refinisher took the top for a deep polish. Caleb sent $200 with the memo, first bite. Mom texted a notebook photo. Owe Nora $18. $850. $50 on the first. Increase after June. Stop using Nora will understand as a budget item. Thank you. I wrote. Period. Monday. The oak came home brighter. The water ring softened, the loose joint quiet. I ran my fingers along the underside and felt Nora deeper than before. Bank alert $50 from my parents' memo. Start. The store's legal team confirmed removal of the fraudulent account within 30 days. Score ticked up. Caleb sent another $50. Byte #2. In the church basement, I asked for policy, no recommending the sale of family property without consent. No PR plaques masquerading as charity. Mr. Ellison proposed a quiet extra chair fund anonymous. For groceries. Utilities. Car repère. Reverend Hale nodded anonymous by policy. The motion passed. House rules went on my wall. Respect the seat. Speak to. Not about. Pass before you preach. Fix what you break. Leave one chair open. Sunday. We set a place for whoever needed it. A woman named Mari knocked. My power got cut. I heard there's a table where you can sit without bringing a casserole. She sat. The baby grabbed her finger. We sent her home with food and a gift card. The chair worked. Progress looked like this. The account disappeared in 19 days. Caleb sold the espresso cart skeleton for $600 and applied for a promotion. Mom came early and asked, "Where can I sit that isn't at the head?" Dad brought a notebook with 4 columns and no slogans. "At church." The open chair beside the cookie table stayed open when needed and filled when needed. Hale said once, "A seat says, 'We expected you.' That's all Grace is." At night, I carved J.O. next to Nora. Names we keep. Wood that remembers. Mail Clara's packet signed deletion. Collector confirmation. A $350 Goodwill check. Then a thick envelope from Weldon Hutton. During digitization, they found Grandma Joe's ethical will and a POD account at Harbor Mutual for open chair meals, $4. Ling ling ling. Her letter. Use this for groceries and a pot you don't judge. No plaque. If anyone insists on their name on a chair, write someone and call it even. People arrived. Tessa came with a duffel. Internship tried to pay me an exposure. I'd rather eat food. We made room. Mr. Patel brought sesame brittle and chose the open chair on purpose. He told Mom. Gently. Sometimes keeping is harder than giving. She nodded. When plates were mostly bones and crumbs, Mom lifted the butter knife. "If it's all right," she said. "It's my turn to carve something that stays." She ducked under the table and scratched steady. Caleb read it aloud. "A seat for you. Right next to Nora and Joe. No names. A promise?" We seated the extra chair fund with Joe's POD money. Ellison matched. Quietly, Hale waved the printed policy asset sale rule adopted. Thank you language modest. At home, I set a lemon in the mustard jar, one honest color. Mom texted a photo of the carving with today's date. Thanks for letting me carve. Thanks for choosing the right sentence. I replied. Before bed, I traced Nora. Joe. A seat for you. I thought of Easter's paper plate and tonight's open chair. If you've stood in a doorway of your own life and felt extra, there's a seat here. Not metaphor. Wood and weight. A napkin you can stain. Grandma said, Wood remembers. Maybe we do. 2, not the version where we pretend nothing hurt, but the one where we touch the mark and say, this is where it hurt. This is how it healed. This is how we'll keep it from happening again. The lamp clicked off. The table held the room like a steady hand. Somewhere in the oak, under polish and rings. 3 words waited for the next meal. A seat for you. A story those at Christmas dinner. My sister told me I was overreacting and smacked my baby. As if attacking a baby was a holiday pastime. They all only sat there. Mila, your wife. However, we took a stand and gave her a lesson she will never forget. She never returned. I've been lurking on this sub for years, guys, but I never imagined that I'd have anything interesting to share. I was mistaken. Boy, probably the most gratifying revenge tale you'll hear this year is what you're about to read. And it's absolutely true. Since my wife is a lawyer and doesn't play around, I have paperwork for everything. I promise that this will be worth reading, even if it will be lengthy. This adventure takes you from family conflict to total life ruin. So grab some popcorn. And chef's kiss perfect is the conclusion. I am a 1-year-old guy who manages commercial constructions for a large Austin construction business as a senior project manager, earning about $185. Ling ling ling. Jessica, my 9-year-old wife, makes around $230 a year as a corporate lawyer at one of those large downtown companies. After 4 years of marriage and dating since college, we welcomed our son Mason into the world last year. We're doing all okay. Good savings account. Nice home in Cedar Park. Both vehicles paid for. Comfortable but not wealthy. Both of us came from middle-class backgrounds and put forth a lot of effort to get to where we are now. No freebies or trust funds, just the old-fashioned slogging through college and establishing professions. Now, my 3-year-old sister Brittany is a whole other story. She has been preoccupied with being wealthy without working for it since high school. She experienced this whole cycle of ideal jobs. After 6 months, I tried my hand at becoming an actor, then a model, but I wasn't attractive enough, then a health coach, whatever that means, and lastly, a lifestyle influencer. She earns a job by marketing expensive beauty goods and exercise supplements to desperate housewives, and she has around 150,000 Instagram followers. You know, the entire Live Your Best Life crowd shares photos of her daily ritual, to complete with $200 beauty creams and $80 worth of vitamins that were likely made for $2. Here's something about Brittany, however, that will be significant in the future. She's been the golden kid all her life. Mom? One of my parents is a former elementary school teacher. Her lifestyle has been supported for years by her father, who runs a modest heating and air company. They covered her vehicle payments, her upscale apartment in downtown Austin, and even her cosmetic surgery when she decided her brand required larger lips. I took out student loans, did summer construction jobs to pay my rent, and worked my way through college and graduate school without asking for a dollar once I turned 18. However, when I don't worship the earth, I'm still the one who is ungrateful. Princess Brittany continues to walk. There has always been a familial dynamic. Brittany is a drama queen. Everybody else adjusts to control her feelings. Something makes her lose her temper. The family meal is canceled. Her birthday present is something she dislikes. It's time to have a family meeting to discuss becoming more considerate, or she suffers emotional distress. All of a sudden, it is the responsibility of everyone else to improve her condition. I'd been putting up with this shit for decades. But because I moved out when I was 18 and only visited them on vacation, it never really impacted me. Although Jessica is kind and has never voiced her opinion, she always felt my family was strange. We kept our encounters to a minimum and simply did our job. It was meant to be a different Christmas. In fact, Jessica and I were thrilled to tell my parents that Mason had celebrated his first Christmas. As a surprise, we paid off the remaining $12,000 on Dad's company debt, and even got them a pretty lovely present. We wanted to involve them in this unique moment since we were feeling giving. After Brittany arrived, the positive sensation persisted for around 30 seconds. Naturally, Brittany drove up to my parents' home in a brand new BMW X5, but she behaves as like she owns it. She wasn't alone. However, she was accompanied by a dubious photographer who had enough camera gear to make a movie. She wanted to shoot real family footage for her Christmas ad after landing a large sponsorship contract with this high-end baby goods firm. She received $15,000 from the corporation for this single post. $15,000 to sell her followers expensive baby carriers while feigning concern for her family. My parents' dining room was instantly filled with ring lights and professional equipment put up by the photographer. A hipster guy with a man bun and pricey glasses. He was rearranging the furniture, modifying the lighting, and establishing various viewpoints. Instead of a family supper, it seemed to be a movie set. Mom apologized that the home wasn't suitable for professional shooting and was frantically attempting to assist by asking what more they needed. As usual, when Brittany causes trouble, Dad sat in his chair and scrolled through his phone, acting as if this wasn't totally crazy. But this is what really got to me. When Jessica and I entered, Brittany didn't even recognize us. She was too busy pointing out lighting issues to the photographer and griping that the home didn't look good enough for her business. She totally ignores us. As we stand there with Mason and our overnight luggage, she spent 10 minutes rearranging Mom's Christmas decorations before she finally noticed us. Instead of saying, "Hey, how are you?" or "Congratulations on the baby," or even just "Hello," she shot straight to Mason and said, "Oh, perfect. Having a real baby in the shots will make this so much more authentic. The brand is going to absolutely love this angle." The typical human response to seeing a newborn is not, "I'm excited to meet my nephew," or "He's so cute." She was only figuring out how to utilize my 8-month-old baby as a prop for her sponsored material. using him like a borrowed item to add credibility to her piece. When Jessica and I were thinking the same thing, we had one of those glances that married couples have. She has a really good nonsense detector since she works as a lawyer and is constantly interacting with deceptive people. And it was going off. However, we chose to be kind and wait to see what happened. Our first error was that, with some food added for embellishment, the supper evolved into a 2-hour picture session. Brittany had a photographer record her making these phony, sincere speeches about the value of family customs and spending time together over the holidays. To seem more natural on camera, she continued giving everyone instructions on how to eat their meal, handle their forks, when to laugh, and even where to sit. She had prepared talking points on thankfulness, family ties, and making memories in advance. It was similar to being unpaid extras in her own commercial, but we were unaware that we had agreed to appear in it. Mason was doing well given the situation. He's often rather laid back. It's like his old guy in that regard. Although he was obviously annoyed by all the bright lights and camera gear, he seemed to be overstimulated, gazing about at everything new, with that somewhat perplexed face that infants get when their routine is disturbed. He became cranky around halfway through this circus. He's making those small, whimpering noises that indicate he's about to lose it. But he's not shouting or anything major. That sound is familiar to all parents. It serves as a warning that you should take action before things get out of hand. Brittany really put up her hand like a stop sign as I reached for him to get him out of his high chair. Don't. We are now receiving very high-quality natural sounds. The demographics of my readership respond well to this kind of real-life family dysfunction. Give it some time to sink in. Her business was well served by my 8-month-old son's distress. She wanted to take advantage of his discomfort and make money off of it. Jessica, being the protective mother she is, stated firmly, he needs a break. We're going to take him upstairs for a few minutes so he can calm down. But Brittany went full influencer diva mode. Are you kidding me right now? Do you have any clue how much this campaign is worth to my brand? The photographer is only available today. And the lighting is flawless. The infant is okay. Kids weep. It's literally what they do. This is actual material. Mom quickly stepped in, supporting Brittany, claiming we were being overprotective first-time parents and that we needed to be more flexible with family activities. She really used the term helicopter parenting to describe us trying to calm our wailing infant. Dad just kept eating his mashed potatoes and pretending nothing was happening, which was his standard response to any family conflict involving Brittany. That's when Mason went from fussing to full meltdown mode, screaming, red-faced, etc. He simply needed someone to pick him up and console him because he was so overwhelmed. To help soothe the crying infant, any decent person would have put everything on hold. Not Brittany, though. She continued to record, discussing with her camera the lovely chaos of genuine family life and how genuine moments like these highlight the true meaning of the holidays. Make sure you're getting this reaction, she said to the photographer, adding that brands like real family dynamics like these. She was entertaining herself by recounting my son's suffering. I was ready to get up and go get Mason. When it occurred, consequences were damned. Brittany leaned over the table and gave Mason a forceful slap across the face. Mason became quiet for a while before letting out a wail I had never heard before, as the sound reverberated around the room like a gunshot. The trace of her hand was evident, and his small face was flushed. The only sound in the room was Mason's sobbing. Mom's fork was frozen halfway to her lips as she sat there. Dad also seemed to have been smacked, as if nothing had occurred. The photographer continued to record. Jessica went into full lawyer mode. However, despite just being fin fear, she seemed to be 10 feet tall as she gently stood up. Turn off that camera right now. The photographer stared at Brittany, who gave a desperate nod. Her voice was chilly. The red recording light went off. Jessica then approached Mason, spoke to him, and carefully removed him from his high chair while examining his face. In her arms, he calmed down almost instantly, gently sniffling on her shoulder while letting out heartbreaking, tiny, hiccuping tears. The following few minutes were a total fog. Jessica turned to Brittany and said, "You just assaulted my infant son." In the same deadly calm voice, she continued, "I hope that content was worth it. because you're about to find out what happens when you mess with a lawyer's family." Brittany instantly began to backtrack, claiming that everyone was overreacting and that she was just attempting to divert his focus. She insisted that she didn't really touch him. Mom attempted damage control by advising us to all relax and handle this, like grown-ups. In fact, she suggested that maybe we revisit this when our feelings aren't as strong, but that didn't sit well with Jessica. She gave Mason to me and began using her phone to take shots of the red mark on his face, recording everything from various perspectives. She looked at the photographer after that. "I need a copy of all the footage you captured today. Everything." The man, who seemed perplexed, said that he needed to first consult Brittany. Incorrect response. Jessica took out her business card and answered, "No, you just captured a youngster being assaulted on camera. In a possible criminal prosecution, such video serves as evidence. I can have cops here with a warrant in 2 hours, or you may willingly provide it now. Make an informed decision." Although I've seen Jessica at work before, it was a whole new experience to witness her go all out in defense of our family. The photographer fumbled with his gear, almost getting soaked. Evidently, he did not anticipate that his hipster photography employment would include possible criminal charges. Meanwhile, Brittany was having a full breakdown. It wasn't even that hard. And he's only a baby. He won't even remember this. And you're totally ruining my career over nothing. Notice that not once did she apologize or show compassion for Mason. It was all about how this affected her brand, her income, her reputation. Then she said something that made my blood boil. "Do you folks have any concept how much money this campaign is worth? I need this content to pay my bills. My rent is due next week, and I've got car payments. You're being utterly selfish right now. Selfish for protecting my son from being slapped." That's when it hit me. This wasn't merely bad judgment under stress. This was who Brittany really was. Someone so conceited that she considered my kid to be nothing more than a financial gimmick. "We're going," I said, "and unless Brittany receives significant assistance, we won't be returning." Dad urged us not to get ahead of ourselves. Mom broke down in tears and said I was destroying the family because of a miscommunication. A miscommunication. Child abuse is a misunderstanding, she said. I heard Brittany yelling at the photographer as we left, accusing him of wrecking everything and asking that he remove all of the video. She was more concerned with her content than with breaking the law. Most of the journey home was silent. Jessica spent the whole time making calls and taking notes on her phone. She informed me that once I contact our physician tomorrow to record the injuries, I will file a police complaint. I'm then contacting others about this sponsorship agreement. "What are you saying? Consider it," she urged. She plans to utilize the video she took of herself hitting a baby in a sponsored post for a business that sells baby supplies. She is being paid to produce material that depicts child abuse. They will not be pleased. I could see where she was heading. Brittany's brand partnerships and social media presence were the foundation of her entire business. "What kind of difficulty may she be in?" I inquired. Jessica gave a chilly smile. "Defamation issues, contract violations, criminal charges, and civil liability. If we handle this correctly, it could be the end of our career." This is the first time since I left my eye grinned. Parents' house. At 6 o'clock the following morning, Jessica was awake, taking thorough notes and making phone calls. It was amazing to watch her use those meticulous legal skills to defend our family. Our pediatrician's office is our first destination. Jessica had called ahead. So, when we arrived with Mason, the doctor was ready with camera and examination forms. She documented the fading mark, took precise measurements and photographs, and provided a detailed written statement about the injury being consistent with being struck by an adult hand. "This is absolutely child abuse," our doctor said. The fact that it was done deliberately to stop normal infant behavior makes it even more concerning. You're doing exactly the right thing. Next stop, the police station. The detective who took our report, a guy with kids of his own, was genuinely angry when he heard the story. "Doesn't matter if it's family," he said firmly. "Assault is assault. And filming it while creating commercial content makes this easy to prosecute." The photographer had already turned over all footage without needing a warrant. Jessica's intimidation tactics worked perfectly. The video clearly showed everything. "We're filing charges for injury to a child," the detective explained. "Third-degree felony in Texas. She's looking at 2 to 10 years if convicted." But the real fun was just getting started. Jessica had researched the company sponsoring Britney's Christmas campaign, some luxury baby brand called Pure Beginnings that marketed itself as devoted to protecting children. Their website was full of content about child safety and creating positive environments. "I called their corporate offices this morning," Jessica told me, "spoke with their head of marketing and legal department, sent them the police report and video screenshots. And they're terminating her contract immediately and demanding she return the advance. She's not getting the 15,000 for the campaign. Plus she owes back the 5,000 advance within 30 days. Or they're taking legal action." But Jessica wasn't done. She'd researched all of Britney's sponsorship deals and business relationships. Turns out my sister had built her entire brand around being family-friendly, promoting baby products, family vacations, parenting apps, children's clothing. "I'm sending the video footage and police report to every single company she has a sponsorship deal with," Jessica explained, showing me her spreadsheet tracking all of Britney's business relationships. Over the next few days, it was like watching dominoes fall. Britney's sponsors abandoned her one by one. A number of them made public declarations stating their commitment to child safety and distancing themselves. A cease and desist letter was sent by her supplement sponsor. Her payment was given to a charity that prevents child abuse by the baby carrier company. Instead of simply abandoning her, that her largest sponsor, a high-end skincare company that paid her $3,000 a month, filed a lawsuit to recover damages. Britney went from earning $8,000 a month from sponsorships to earning nothing in just 1 week. Actually, it was less than zero because she now owed money to multiple companies for breach of contract. Overnight, her whole source of income had vanished. My family was going through a total breakdown while Jessica was methodically ruining Britney's sources of income. Mom was the first to call, crying uncontrollably about how I was ruining Britney's life for no reason and pleading with me to stop before things get out of hand. She kept saying things like, "You're being cruel and vindictive, and I didn't mean to hurt him." "Mom." She slapped my 8-month-old son hard enough to leave a mark while filming sponsored content, I said calmly after letting her speak for a few minutes. "Where was that energy when she was harming Mason? If you think that's nothing, then I honestly don't know what to tell you. But she's your sister. Family is supposed to forgive each other and work things out. Family is supposed to protect each other, especially children." For that, she had no response. Then Dad called, attempting to be more realistic. In addition to offering to cover Britney's anger management classes, he proposed that we resolve this privately, away from the police and her business connections. For that, it is too late. She did a felony on camera. Dad, this cannot be resolved in silence. For this, are you really going to put your own sister in jail? She wasn't sent anywhere by me. When she decided that hitting babies was okay, she sent herself there. However, Britney's own calls were a completely different matter. The first few were furious, yelling that I was ruining her career and ruining her life because of a single, insignificant error. In fact, she said Mason was fine and I was being overly dramatic. She lost it all when I pointed out that she had broken her business contracts and committed a crime. "You have no understanding. I must have this money. My monthly expenses include $2,800 for rent, $650 for my car, and approximately $40, 0 inches credit card debt. I will literally be homeless if I lose these sponsors." And there it was. The real story behind Britney's amazing lifestyle as an influencer. She was trying to maintain an appearance of success while living paycheck to paycheck. Debt and sponsorship funds were used to finance the BMW, the opulent apartment, and the designer clothing, all of which could vanish at any time. I said, "Perhaps you ought to have considered that before you slapped a baby," and hung up. There were even more repercussions the following week. As news of the incident spread, Brittany's following began to decline. After the story was picked up by a few smaller influencer drama accounts, Brittany abuse became a trending topic on Twitter. People were criticizing her and demanding accountability in her comment sections. She posted a lengthy apology video in an attempt to control the conversation, but it was just typical influencer damage control. She talked a lot about how sorry she was for the miscommunication and how the experience was helping her learn and grow. She used meaningless buzzwords to save her career. But there was no genuine accountability or recognition of the harm she had truly caused. It had a disastrous backlash. Numerous child advocacy organizations began citing her case as an illustration of how social media culture can result in child abuse and exploitation due to the incredibly harsh comments. Then Jessica found out something that made Brittany's situation even worse. One evening, she showed me a stack of papers she had somehow managed to get her hands on and said, "I've been going through her tax filings. She has been defrauding people for years." As it turns out, Brittany had been continuously lying to the IRS about her earnings and outlays. She had been underreporting her sponsorship income, claiming fictitious deductions for non-existent items, and writing off personal purchases as business expenses, the sort of things that could lead to an audit and possible tax evasion charges. Along with proof of her real income from the sponsorship deals I've been following, Jessica stated, "I'm sending all of this paperwork to the IRS. She may owe at least 3 years' worth of back taxes, penalties, and interest, which comes to a total of probably $50. Ling ling ling." I gave a low whistle. Brittany was totally bankrupt after losing all of her income, owing money to her previous sponsors, and now having to pay a huge tax bill. We weren't finished yet. Though, the criminal case went to trial approximately 6 weeks after Christmas. The cheap lawyer Brittany had hired was obviously unprepared for the volume of evidence Jessica had gathered in our favor. The case was overwhelming. Everything was clearly shown in the video. Mason's first reaction to Brittany hitting him, the fallout. According to our pediatrician's testimony, the injury was consistent with intentional assault. The investigation and evidence gathering were explained by the detective. Even Brittany's phone records, which Jessica had subpoenaed, revealed that she had texted friends about how annoying Mason was interfering with her ability to create content. Brittany was presented with a plea bargain by the prosecutor. Enter a guilty plea to child injury. Serve 2 years of probation. Finish parenting and anger management courses. And reimburse Mason's medical bills as well as our legal fees. She was strongly encouraged to accept the deal by her bargain lawyer. It would keep her out of jail and was generous in light of the evidence. However, Brittany, who had always been an entitled narcissist, declined. She even admitted to the judge that she was the true victim in this case, that her family had abandoned her and destroyed her career because she had lost her temper with a crying infant. She stated that slapping Mason was merely an automatic response to put an end to disruptive behavior because she had been under a lot of stress from the filming. She claimed that the true abuse was when we used the legal system to ruin her life for no reason at all. The judge was completely unimpressed. He sentenced her to 3 years in state prison, plus 5 years of probation after her release, along with mandatory anger management and restitution payments. After the jury returned a guilty verdict, after less than 2 hours of deliberation, he got 3 years in prison for slapping my child for tampering with her Instagram posts. However, Brittany's legal issues didn't end there. 2 weeks after her sentencing, she was hit by the IRS audit. It was discovered that she owed $52, 0 inches, 4-year back taxes, penalties, and interest. Everything was leased or financed because she lacked assets and a source of legitimate income. They placed loans on her credit report and began garnishing any future earnings she might have. The skincare company's lawsuit then proceeded to trial. She was found guilty of breach of contract and harm to their brand's reputation, and they were awarded $30. Ling ling ling. Another debt she was unable to pay. Another lien. She was evicted by her landlord because she failed to pay the rent. The sponsorship money she had been counting on never materialized. The BMW was taken back due to non-payment. Her credit cards were canceled. Brittany had literally lost everything she owned by the time she reported to prison. Here's the problem. Though I had no pity whatsoever for her. She put her sponsored content before Mason's welfare. And every time I saw him crawling around our living room, babbling happily, and reaching his developmental milestones, I thought of that time. I was reminded by every laugh, every smile, and every father and mother that she had been prepared to harm him in order to obtain money. With some of the money we'd saved on legal fees, Jessica and I established a Mason College Fund. There are undoubtedly benefits to having a lawyer for a wife. In his honor, we also gave $10,000 to a charity that prevents child abuse. Life continued as usual. We purchased a larger home in a better school district, and I was elevated to senior project manager. Mason began to walk and speak for the first time. Jessica's parents, who genuinely loved being grandparents and lavished Mason Rotten with the finest treats, hosted frequent family dinners for us. Additionally, we heard nothing at all from my side of the family for 2.5 years. Then, due to her good behavior, Brittany was released from prison early, on a Tuesday night, while I was assisting Mason with his dinner. Mom called for the first time. At 3 years old, he was beginning to use a fork quite well, but he still required assistance, chopping his chicken nuggets. We really need to talk. Mike, honey, since Brittany's release last week, things have gotten incredibly worse. After setting Mason's sippy cup down, I went into the adjacent room. What does bad mean to you? She has nowhere to go at all. No apartment. No job opportunities. No money. And 780. She is unable to obtain approval for anything because her credit has been totally ruined. Not a simple checking account, either. She has been living with us, but your father and I are no longer able to provide for her. During the trial, we spent all of our retirement funds, and we are now barely able to pay our own expenses. I was unaware of that. I had assumed that despite everything that had transpired, my parents would continue to support Brittany. However, it seems that even they had their limits. Mom, what are you asking me, specifically Mike? She needs help. Genuine assistance. She is your sister. And although I am aware that her actions were wrong, she has made amends to society. She is attempting to change her life after realizing her mistake. I nearly burst out laughing. Has she truly expressed regret for what she did to Mason? Has she truly accepted responsibility for what she did? A long silence. A very long silence. That's a no from me. She finds it difficult to accept what transpired. She is struggling to process everything that happened to her while she was incarcerated. But she is working to rebuild her life. All she needs is her family's support. For 33 years, she was supported by her family before she harmed my son. Mom, she was able to get away with harming people for years because of that support. More quiet. Then Mom burst into tears. Mike, please, I'm pleading with you. There is nothing left for her. Her criminal record prevents her from being hired. She is unable to obtain a credit card, a car loan, or even an apartment. She is utterly desperate. I was so desperate that I apologized for hitting my kid. I'm not sure. She might be more receptive to me hanging up on her if she knew you were willing to assist. 3 days later, Dad called again. He took a more straightforward and, to be honest, worrisome approach. I need you to assist your sister. Son, she is discussing the possibility of harming herself. Your mother is terrified that she will take drastic measures. Dad, she needs expert assistance, not money, not connections at work. We are unable to pay for expert assistance. We were totally broke financially as a result of the trial, and everything that followed. Her legal fees alone required me to take out a second mortgage on the house, and are currently having trouble making those payments. I was also unaware of that. In order to protect their grandchild from abuse, my parents had risked their home and their retirement funds. Instead of defending Mason, they had decided to stand by her. Dad, that was your decision. You decided to back her rather than us or your grandson. Mike, she's family. No matter what, family supports family. Children in particular are protected by their families, It looks like you forgot that part. I also hung up on him. About a week later, Brittany herself made the third call. I almost didn't answer when I saw her name on my phone. But I couldn't help but be curious and wanted to hear her opinion. Mike. She had a tiny, shaky voice that was entirely different from the assured influencer tone I had remembered. Don't hang up on me. Please. I waited without saying anything. I'm sure you don't want to hear this, but I'm in dire need of assistance. I need a job, but my record prevents me from getting hired. I was hoping there might be something available at your company, even if it's only menial office filing or construction work. Brittany. Are you serious now? I realize this is a lot to ask, but I'm in a disparity situation. My parents can't afford to continue providing for me, so I'm staying at their house. I have no one else to ask or any other place to go. Have you expressed regret for what you did to my son yet? A long silence. A very long silence. That's complicated. Mike, over the past few years, I've experienced a lot, and I'm still coming to terms with everything that has happened. Brittany, it's not complicated at all. You struck my kid. You either regret what you did, or you don't. I apologize for how things turned out. I apologize for the drama and issues it caused for all those concerned. An apology is not what that is. That's your way of apologizing for getting caught and having to deal with the fallout. What you want me to say is unclear to me. I was imprisoned. I lost everything. Isn't that sufficient penalty? And there it was. She still didn't understand. Despite losing everything and spending nearly 3 years in prison, in her mind, she was still the victim. She continued to believe that her punishment was the issue. She wouldn't harm a baby. You still don't realize what you did wrong. Brittany. So it's insufficient. I immediately blocked her number after hanging up. The tale doesn't stop there. Though, I received an intriguing email at work, approximately a month after Brittany's pitiful phone call. It came from a man who hosted a well-liked podcast about social media scandals and influencer culture. He wanted to interview me about the entire case for a future episode because he had been following Brittany's case from the start. In a normal situation, I would have said no. Throughout it all, Jessica and I had made an effort to remain anonymous, but something about his email drew my attention. According to him, Brittany had been attempting to resurface on social media by portraying herself as a reformed ex-offender and sharing her path of personal development and atonement. Curious. I looked through her Instagram account. As expected, she resumed posting frequently. The bio now reads, Phoenix Rising, which tells my story of personal development, second chances, and genuine redemption. Her goal was to make money off of her criminal conviction. All of her posts focused on growing from hardship and learning from mistakes, and the ability of forgiveness to change. She had acquired roughly 22,000 new followers, all of whom seemed to be intrigued by the story of the redemption arc. Small brands left comments on a number of her recent posts inquiring about possible collaborations. She was actually attempting to use the story of her jail sentence for hitting my child to launch a new influencer career. She was creating content out of child abuse. I made the decision to do the podcast interview at that point. The podcaster's research was extremely thorough. He completed his assignments and had all the necessary paperwork, screenshots of some of the video footage, court records, police reports, and Brittany's previous posts. When influencer culture goes too far, the Brittany Wilson story was the title of the episode. I told the entire story from beginning to end. The preparation of the Christmas meal, the attack, the trial, and the fallout. My family had left me voicemails pleading with me to help her get back on her feet, and I played audio recordings of some of those messages. I demonstrated the sharp discrepancy between her public story of redemption and her private denial of any real regret for her actions. The podcaster's playback of a clip from Brittany's most recent Instagram story, in which she discussed how some people were unable to forgive her and move on, and how harboring resentment was unhealthy and hindered healing, was the highlight of the episode. So, let me clarify this. The podcaster claimed that after hitting your child, I'm going to jail and losing everything. She is now angry with you for harboring resentment. That's precisely correct. She sees herself as the victim in this situation. Everyone should simply forgive and move on, since she served her time in prison. However, she has never truly expressed regret or accepted responsibility. She simply regrets being discovered and subjected to repercussions. The episode of the podcast went viral. In just one day, it was trending on Reddit, TikTok, and Twitter, and had been downloaded over 800 with 75,000 upvotes. The Reddit post about it reached the site's main page. When the internet detects injustice, it does what it does best. They ruined her beyond recognition. As people began sharing clips from the podcast, her new Instagram following began to rapidly decline. People were criticizing her for attempting to make money off of child abuse. In her comment sections, all of the small brands that had expressed interest in collaborating abruptly stopped talking. A criminal conviction for child abuse was being used as a marketing ploy, and no one wanted to be associated with that. After the podcast was released, Britney's following fell from 170,000 to roughly 30,000 inches, just 2 weeks. The majority of those who remained were hate watchers who were mocking her post by documenting it. About 3 weeks later, however, the true justice was served. Jessica called me while I was at work, going over blueprints. She was laughing so hard she was having trouble speaking. Now is the perfect time to check out Britney's Instagram. I pulled up her account on my phone, and there it was. A 15-minute video of Britney crying and pleading for forgiveness, not just from Jessica and me, but from everyone, she said, describing the most pitiful video she had ever seen in her life. She was sitting in what appeared to be my parents' guest bedroom, makeup streaming down her face, apologizing and saying she finally realized what she had done wrong. The worst part was that she was requesting money for therapy and legal fees through a GoFundMe she had created, using her phony apology as a fundraising tool. She was literally trying to crowdfund her way out of the consequences of her actions. Although the video had comments disabled, people were sharing it everywhere with their own commentary. And the general consensus was that this was just another try at manipulation, and that she was only sorry because her comeback attempt had failed miserably. Britney was deplatformed after her GoFundMe account was shut down for violating their terms of service within a week. Her Instagram account was suspended for harassment after she allegedly began sending nasty direct messages to people who criticized her. And her TikTok account was also banned for the same reason. A month or so later, my parents called one last time. Dad sounded utterly dejected and genuinely older than his years. "She's moving to Michigan to live with your aunt, Linda," he said quietly, offering her a job cleaning houses for $16 an hour. She had no social media presence, no source of income, and no way to rebuild any kind of influencer career. The trial, the jail time, the failed comeback attempt, all of these things have opened her eyes to things she didn't want to see before. It's the only job she can find with her record. From earning $8,000 a month as an influencer to cleaning toilets for just over minimum wage, if that isn't poetic justice, I don't know what is. "How is Mom handling all of this?" I asked. I gave it some thought. She has been inquiring about Mason lately, wondering if there might be a way to mend things between you and Jessica. Mason was 3.5 years old at the time, speaking in complete sentences, and beginning to inquire as to why he didn't have grandparents like his preschool peers. I hung up and said, "My family is better off without all of you until she's ready to take real responsibility for what she did." Has she apologized yet? Has Britney ever really said she's sorry for hitting Mason? Long pause number. She still hasn't. Then there's nothing to rebuild. Dad, he had been fascinated by my work lately, and when he saw me, he ran over and gave me a tight hug, saying, "Daddy, look what me and Mommy built. It's really, really tall." He was in the living room with Jessica, building a complex tower out of blocks and explaining to her how structural engineering works. I picked him up and looked at his cheerful, bright face. The only thing that truly mattered was a healthy, loved little boy growing up in a home where his safety would never, ever be negotiable. Britney is currently in Michigan, most likely cleaning someone else's bathroom, and wondering how her amazing influencer life went so terribly wrong. There was no fear, trauma, or memory of that Christmas 4 years ago. After losing their retirement funds while defending a child abuser, my parents are now coming to terms with the decision they made to put their grandson's welfare last. Story 2. I received the message uninviting me shortly after they sent the invitation on a Tuesday. The envelope had the thickness, cream color, and gold filigree that you would expect from an Ivy League wedding or a senator's fundraiser. The front said, Bristow Family Reunion, Fairmont Hotel, San Francisco, August 15, 7 p.m. I didn't open it. Not necessary. The name of the hotel was too familiar. It was listed under the Elite Partners Platinum tier on my tablet's client list. That was my electronic signature. Verifying the reservation on the contract, my cousin Olivia, who is always the unofficial family coordinator, buzzed a message on my phone a few moments later. The one with the courteously wrapped bad news. Hello, Lila. Just so you know, this year's Fairmont is completely booked. It will be a formal event with many guests arriving by plane. I hope it works for you. The emoji, the unspoken symbol of exclusion, not a complete rejection, a courteous erasure only. I had previously seen this. Birthday invitations never came. During career announcements, my name was silently removed from group chats. I was never called a failure. They simply acted as though I didn't exist. I went back to my desk. The San Francisco skyline glowed in a misty haze as the rain pattered softly against the window of my 27th floor corner office. My screen still displayed the Bristol event contract. Olivia made the reservation via my concierge platform at the Fairmont Hotel. It had been flagged for approval by our assistant. For last-minute, high-profile reservations. I personally approved a 30% premium. They were unaware that the same girl who used to work late into the night cleaning hotel rooms was now the CEO of Morgan Properties, which owns 15 historic buildings across Northern California. Unpredictable. The lost cause was what they continued to whisper. Let them speak. I never desired their acceptance. The night was mine. I walked over to the bookshelf and took out a tiny black frame that was hidden behind my business books. There was a battered plastic badge inside. Lila Housekeeping. San Francisco. Grand Pacific Hotel. Liantianling Ishisen. That night, I placed it prominently on my desk to remind myself why I had said yes to myself when everyone else had said no, even though I hadn't seen it in years. There are two kinds of people in this world. According to my mother, those who inherit names and those who carry legacies. After supper, when the wine had relaxed her speech, she would whisper it. We were supposed to, not as though everything he said was legally binding. When I first realized what my role was, I was 11 years old. The burden, not the name. They intended for me to join Morgan Capital as a junior associate by the time I turned 24. My name was already on the door of an office. Morgan. Lila. Business plan. Less than a year passed. I asked the wrong questions. Not because I didn't succeed. Inquiries concerning layoffs. No one provided an explanation regarding the outsourcing of janitorial staff or the long-term employees' disappearance of their retirement fund. Your thinking is too limited. From behind his desk of polished oak, my father let out a bark. You're blind. No, I replied. All I'm interested in is what people carry. Our last meaningful conversation ended there. Our relationship shifted to a quiet distance after that. Birthdays are disregarded, and texts are not read. I enrolled in and graduated first in my class from San Francisco State University's Hospitality Management program. Not one member of the family appeared. I was cleaning rooms at a dilapidated motel close to Market Street a year later. Each shift has 10 rooms. Wet linen and towels that smelled like bleach. However, it was truthful. I started from scratch when building it. No freebies. Olivia sent me the wedding picture from her reception at that point. Everyone was glowing. Smiling faces. Sparkling champagne. And tailored suits. Even though I wasn't in the photo. I can still clearly recall that evening. A dishwasher was on break, and the DJ had left early. So I sat at a table close to the kitchen. Olivia explained that it was because I appeared more at ease there. A screenshot of a family group chat showed up in my inbox 2 days later. A picture with a caption of my old housekeeping badge. Cleaning rooms was her goal. She must have gotten what she wanted. They chuckled. Nobody raised their voice. Not even Aunt Marlene. You don't have to be like the others, said the aunt who once gave me lemon drops in a whisper. I discovered that day, not all erasure is loud or furious. Sometimes there is silence. You sit far from the head of the table. I get cropped out of enough pictures, leave off enough messages, and eventually start to question whether you were ever there at all. So I let it go. I started creating something that no one could ignore instead of waiting for them to notice me. With only 3 months worth of savings, an old laptop, and one duffel bag, I left San Francisco. There was only a desperate need for silence. No grand scheme. Somewhere no one gave a damn about my family, and my last name was irrelevant. In Woodstock, Vermont, I rented a tiny attic room in a dilapidated farmhouse. May and Frank, an elderly couple who operated it, paid me in cash to take reservations, change linens, and deal with latecomers. I was given room 9, which had a single bed, a skylight that framed the stars, and a low, slanted ceiling. I adored it. That was the beginning of true solitude. The concept, not the company. I scrawled questions in a battered spiral notebook. What caused some visitors to return while others disappeared? Why would a stranger feel noticed in a place they had never been to before? Safe. I watched. I tried things out. A confused sign, a crooked bench, and a buzzing lamp. I made all the repairs without a budget. Just be mindful. Soon guests started asking for Lila. Not Miss Morgan. Miss Lila. When May and Frank decided to retire, I showed up with spreadsheets, market research, and a vision. I made an offer they accepted. I renamed it Maple House. My first property. My first real win. 5 rooms. No employees. Just me. I poured my heart into it, scrubbing every floorboard, replacing musty curtains with linen panels, painting walls in soft shades of sage and cream on every nightstand. I left a handwritten card. You're here now. You can rest. Guests remembered that line. I didn't hire a PR firm. I didn't need one. What did word of mouth do? No advertising effort could. Guests shared stories with their friends and raised awareness. Support came from attention. Not millions. Enough. But not overnight. I opened a second property, Maple Ridge, in less than 5 years. Then came a third, Maple Harbor, which was subtly superior to the larger resorts despite being smaller. I gave them titles, respect, and fair pay when I promoted former housekeepers to site managers. No rigid uniforms, just dignified, real work. Subscribe right away if you think that starting over and quiet strength are powerful. You won't want to miss what comes next because Maple House's journey is just getting started. No hollow greetings. No phony smiles. Only those who proudly understood the true meaning of service. Never give in. By the time I turned 31, Maple House had subtly developed into a reputable brand of its own. Subtle luxury, careful consideration, no velvet ropes, no fountains made of marble, only true dignity, done correctly. I never signed my name on any of it. Though, under M.P., the properties were listed, Morgan Holdings. Most people thought the CEO was a man who was ideal for me. I wasn't hiding. I was defending my creation. I was able to make something they couldn't destroy because of the silence. I kept my old plastic badge behind my desk, tucked away between vendor catalogs and fabric samples. The center of Leela's housekeeping was faded, cracked, and scratched. It should have been replaced long ago, but I wore it for a long time, presented it simply. No glass, black frame, not affixed to any wall. Just for me, not for show. I held it some nights after countless spreadsheets and signatures. To remember the foundation, not to relive the suffering. I didn't construct Maple House to make a statement. I made it to fit in. One of Vermont's most upscale boutique hotels, Maple Harbor, was their choice for the family reunion. They didn't know. The corporate portal was used to make the reservation for Maple Harbor. In the family conversation, Olivia boasted about using her connections to get the desired location. "We're very fortunate," she said. The manager at the front desk informed her that although the owner was very private, everything was expedited as soon as they saw the family name. They were correct. I personally approved the linen color scheme, doubled the staff, upgraded their service, imported fresh flowers, and expedited it myself. Naturally. Digitally. Remember to subscribe if you experience that silent moment of victory with me. When they eventually discover whose foundation they have been standing on, the next chapter begins. I hadn't signed a document in years. Of course, when you leave, silence is the best defense. Not a single fingerprint. S. Bristow was listed as the host on the reservation, which was made using Morgan Hospitality's elite tier. The irony could have broken glass. Hannah, our guest relations manager, was reassigned to manage the account. Sophie was just another overly involved client who was fixated on spreadsheets and flower arrangements. She was intelligent, steady, and blissfully ignorant of family drama to Hannah. Sophie requested a custom floral arrangement with blue and white delphiniums and hydrangeas a week prior to the reunion. Hannah was summoned to my office. I told Hannah to be kind to them, but not gentle. Curious. She cocked her head. "What are you saying? Don't treat them like delicate glass. Simply serve them as they would like to be served." Slowly, a knowing smile crept onto Hannah's face as she nodded. I didn't have to explain everything to her. I sent just one message that evening. "You're coming? Janine and 2. Get there at 640. Avoid letting them in too soon." I saw the read receipt, but she didn't respond. That was sufficient. For the following 6 days, sleep was an uncommon visitor. I went over every aspect, including the menu options, signage, lighting cues, and room layout. I made one small adjustment at the last minute. Typically, a printed welcome note from the host family was placed in each guest suite. The card read this time, "We hope your visit serves as a reminder of your origins, and what you never really lost." I didn't fully sign up. Layla, I didn't have to. On the day of the reunion, I didn't go through the front doors of the Grand. Rather, as I always did, I slipped in through the service entrance, passing carts full of fresh linens and trays of champagne glasses. Entering through the back door to enter the center of the house has a sacred quality. It helps you stay grounded. My outfit was navy, not wearing any jewelry. A hairpin, quite nicely. Nothing called out for attention. For me, the room did that. They arrived in pairs at 6:45 p.m., followed by small groups, all the nervous sparkle of people who are desperate to be noticed, from loud laughter to firm handshakes. Sophie, 2, unaware that she was entering my home. She entered like a cruise director, grinning and waving. 10 minutes later, my father showed up with 2 strangers on either side. I instantly recognized sleep watches, polished shoes, and finance types. The kind of men who use spreadsheets to build empires, but don't remember the janitor's names. From a tiny monitor hidden just past the kitchen hallway, I observed, present but hidden. I was not missed. The beauty of it was that no one searched for me anymore because I had been removed from their story so long ago. However, that was going to change. The ballroom lights dimmed just enough to silence the conversation and pique interest at precisely 7:15. Then the noise, 3 gentle chimes. Slow and methodical. Sophie was in the middle of describing the personalized glassware. With a clipboard in hand and his customary cool professionalism, our guest services manager, Everett, came over to her. "The owner has asked that we start the welcome presentation right away." "Miss Bristow," he said softly. The owner was perplexed by Sophie's blinks. "Well, I don't believe that's required." I have been working with your office for weeks, and we have already expressed our gratitude to the staff. Usually, the owner doesn't do these things. Everett remained silent. All he did was turn to the stage. The screen came to life, white and crisp, with a soft navy background and a clean serif font. It's hard to miss. Layla Morgan, the CEO and CEO of P. Morgan Holdings, founded Maple Harbor. The space grew cold. Sophie's float broke on the marble floor after slipping out of her hands. The back did not speak, but my father's jaw tensed. There was a murmur. Hold on. What? Above the ballroom? I stepped onto the landing, baby dress poised and composed. Air pinned back. Heels clicking softly. I was just like the woman they said I would never be. Good night, I said in a calm, steady voice. I am aware that many of you were surprised to see me here tonight. Hold on. When the table attempted to laugh, there was a nervous chuckle. After all, you didn't invite me. Letting the words hang, I said, however, I felt it was time for you to be properly welcomed to Maple Harbor. After all, I let my gaze roam the crowd. You're in my house right now. Mouths parted. Chairs shuffled. Rose whispers. Sophie moved forward apprehensively. The cheeks turned red. Crazy. What are you doing? Leela, she muttered. I looked into her cool, unblinking eyes. Just like you taught me. Entering. This hotel was reserved in your name, I said in a quiet but distinct voice. You stated that the Bristow name was the reason the owner showed you courtesy. Correct. That was accurate. I provided you with precisely what you requested. Plus 20%. I spoke without flinching. That was the triumph. You talked about me for years as if I were some far-off embarrassment. A dropout. A housekeeper. The girl who squandered her name. You said I vanished. I didn't go away. Though, they simply stopped observing. I looked around the room bases. Older. More rigid. Motionless. And adorned with the fragile astonishment of being caught off guard. Their uneasiness was nothing new. The story had changed, so it was simply louder now. My dad got up. Lila. His voice was unreadable and rough. This place is yours, I responded. Equally, across 4 states. Adding that I owned 17. He didn't respond. Not necessary, I said. I'm not here for applause. I came to give something back. I nodded slightly in Hannah's direction. 2 team members, each carrying svelte black folders, followed her forward. Inside were signed event contracts. 1 for each visitor. Layla Morgan is her name. They have a single note and itemized rates. Occasionally, the story you attempted to remove still ends up on the wall close to the rear. Janine laughed softly. Knowingly. Why didn't you use your full name from the beginning? A gentle older man standing next to my father asked. I hesitated because I wanted to construct something before anyone made a decision about what it should be. As I moved away, he nodded quietly and with understanding in his eyes. It was the noise, not the light, that dimmed the ballroom. I didn't feel invisible for the first time in years. A diplomat was discreetly assigned to the VIP suite that Sophie had insisted on calling 4 times to secure. Arriving late, she was heavily pregnant. Naturally, Sophie's new room was still lovely, but it was the same kind of alley that I used to clean for $9. $75 an hour. Aunt Janine came looking for me, but my father never did. After 11 p.m., she knocked on the door of my office. She wasn't invited in. She didn't unhear. All she did was give me an envelope. It contained a picture I hadn't seen in many years. I was on the back porch of the old Bristow house. Maybe 8 years old. My father's hand rested lightly on my shoulder while he held a pitcher of lemonade in both hands. Not for anything noteworthy, but because I spilt the lemonade a few minutes later. I remembered that day, fearful of receiving a reprimand. Nobody spoke. They chuckled. I didn't feel like I belonged on the back again after that. You were woven into Janine's looping script. That was all. Before I could say anything, she was gone. I rode the elevator to the service floor the following morning. The housekeeping staff was getting started. Some gave a nod. A young woman grinned and then averted her gaze. I strolled over to the former supply room. Our break area is now. Near the rear wall was a coat rack. I took the frame name tag out of my bag. Lila. Cleaning. Above the jackets. I hung it. No spotlight. No plaque. Just a nail and some wood. Sophie left a note in her room later that day. We did something that you didn't deserve. Although I didn't respond. The return address appeared on the reunion invitations sent out the following spring. Caldwell Miracle at ellen.group. Please subscribe and stick around if my story speaks to you. I didn't construct Maple Harbor to make a statement. I constructed it to provide a home for people like us. Tell me what they attempted to remove from you in the comment section below. Even if the voice is only a whisper, it still matters. If you have ever been forgotten or forgotten, no, you are not by yourself. It matters how strong you are in silence, and your future is built with each little step you take. Together, we surpass everyone's expectations. So please subscribe and come along on this journey with me. Your assistance means the world to me.